and Elevation Radio.
Oh, yeah, we're live. God bless you. This is Elevation Radio 1, and I'm your host, Pastor Steve, the Music Man Turner, and we thank you for taking the journey with us. This is the program that spotlights positive people doing positive work while serving a positive God whose name is Jesus, and we are proud of that. And so today, our topic today is Meet Mr. Brandon Scott. Meet Mr. Brandon Scott. Can he build a better Baltimore? And that's the question of the day. Can he build a better Baltimore? And today we have, I'll be with the Democratic nominee for mayor, Mr. Brandon Scott. Is he the one that will lead a revival of greatness in Baltimore? He will also share with us his vision and plans for, saving and serving the issues that Baltimore is facing here. And as we often say in the legal world, hear ye him. And so now, before we hear ye him, we will go to the Queen, my lovely wife, First Lady Leroy Turner, who's the beautiful part of this program, and she will give us the verse to rehearse as we get started. And go ahead, sweetheart.
Coming from the book of Isaiah 43:2. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burnt, neither the flame kindle upon thee.
All righty. Well, thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that. And, again, we're ready to get started with the Democratic nominee for mayor of Baltimore, and that is Mr. Brandon Scott. Mr. Scott, are you there?
I am. Good evening.
God bless you. How you feel? All right. Glad to have you.
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm feeling great. I'm healthy. I feel blessed.
Fantastic. Well, that's a good thing. Let's see here. My first question I ask of all guests, again, I thank you for your time on this program, is who is Brandon Scott?
Brandon Scott is a son of Baltimore, someone who grew up in Park Heights here in Northwest Baltimore, who unfortunately saw his first shooting before his 10th birthday, who had to go to school to no heat and air until 9th grade, who's lost friends, who's seen what gun violence, the disease of gun violence has done to my city my entire life, who made it out despite the odds, who just has dedicated himself to serving his city even long before becoming an elected official, and who is someone as principled, someone who is a servant first, a servant leader, as we say, but also someone who just truly, genuinely cares about Baltimoreans in Baltimore, who wants to see the people coming behind him than I ever was at any job that I had. And I think that's truly who Brandon Scott is, and also a family man and someone who wants to just see his people succeed beyond their wildest dreams.
I tell you, there's nothing wrong with that. I caught some words in there that I think are important. You said servant leader. So what church do you go to, sir?
So actually, I am a free agent right now, and before long story short, my family had a place that we were attending to some family issues that I won't air out in the public. But before COVID shut down, I was actually visiting different places of worship every Sunday to try to see where my new home was going to be. And as we open back up, I'm going to start that back up. I have right now, I won't say it out loud, but I have like a top 3 of places that I've frequented more than once, which gives you a sense of what I was thinking. But I have some others that I owe it to myself to see if they're a place that would fit for me.
I tell you, sometimes the opportunity come. I've been there myself where I didn't have a particular church home, and I was doing some church shopping. That's what I call it. Make sure I would get it in the right spot.
Yeah. And I don't want to do it the Amazon Prime way. I want to do it. I want to go in the store. I don't want the contactless delivery of the word. I want to get it in person, so I have to wait.
It's a little old school, sir. A little old school. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm an old soul, man.
It's all right. And so let's see. We've got some callers who are interested in talking to you. Looks like you're. But let me get another question out here. And let me ask you this question: as people are listening to this program, I can guarantee you that. What are your qualifications to become mayor?
Well, when you think about public service in any job, you have to be someone that actually first has the experience necessary and the cultural understanding to do a job like that. And you're talking about in my elected servant leadership, you're talking about someone who I always knew my calling and my purpose that the Creator created for me was through service. I started out running mentoring programs for big brothers, big sisters, leading community activists things in Baltimore City, helping even young college students and things like that before coming to City Hall and working as a staffer, working inside the office of the council president, then inside the office of the mayor, office of neighborhoods, recreational parks, criminal justice, learning how governments operate and learning things that were right and things that were wrong. And that's what pushed me to run for office on my own, becoming elected at 27, at that time the youngest person elected to the single-member city council, working and building my professional understanding of policy, becoming the vice chair of the National League of Cities Large Cities Council, and then the chair of the National League of Cities Large Cities Council, meaning that when the cities, the big cities, 300,000 and above, got together, it was me, a young 30-something-old Brandon Scott, leading all of those major cities on policy discussion and how we were going to operate in the lens of working together to get resources for cities, and mainly through the federal government. But also someone who's a lifelong Baltimorean, who's never left, who's been here my entire life. And who better to lead the city of Baltimore than someone that not only knows the system, not only knows how government is supposed to work, because let me be very clear, being mayor is not an entry-level job. You will not, in the church, you do not get to walk in the church day one and they're going to make you the pastor of the church and you have never been ordained, have never given a sermon, have never had a day of divinity training or understanding. Being mayor is no different. This is not an entry-level job. You need someone with that understanding of how the job actually works and operates. But also, who better to lead the city than someone who grew up here and made it despite the government failing. I grew up again in Park Heights, a neighborhood where the world descends on it for Preakness Saturday, and then the rest of the year I struggled to be recognized as human by my own city government when no elected official except Elijah E. Cummings, rest his soul, came to visit. Someone who understands that, who had the gun pointed in his face, who had to deal with over-policing and under-policing and never anything in the middle where it was just right. Who better than a young man who survived underfunded schools, who survived zero tolerance, to make it and has that complete understanding of how Baltimore needs to be fixed from top to bottom, inside and out. That's why I am, at this moment in time for Baltimore, the most qualified for the job.
All right. I hear you, sir. Let's see here. We do have a caller here who's interested in asking you a question. It's call number 5792, last extension. Welcome to Elevation Radio 1. How can we help you?
Hi there. My name is Cheryl, and I've spoken with you before.
Cheryl. How you feel now?
Hi. I'm feeling wonderful. Thank you for letting me know about this this broadcast today, and I'm absolutely delighted to be able to speak with the Democratic nominee for mayor of our city.
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead and ask your one question there.
Okay. Well, this is my question that we discussed in a previous broadcast. I had the experience of calling 911, and I was asked my race. I filed a complaint with the police department on the website, and I received a gracious call back from another officer who told me that it was Baltimore Police Department policy to ask race. But as the daughter of a police officer and the sister of a police officer in Washington, D.C., I have never been asked my race in all of my years. And I'm not shy about calling 911 if somebody needs help or if I witness an accident or if something looks suspicious.
Okay.
And
what is your question?
So my question is, I felt intimidated as a woman of color. I felt intimidated by that question, and the officer, sir, proceeded to explain to me what race was, and that felt patronizing. I feel like this is a racism, a systemic racism, and I want to ask if Mr. Scott knows about this policy, would he help me? Would he champion an investigation and the removal of this policy? Because not being enforced. One person in my experience has used it on me, and I do call when there is a need to call. I know a lot of people don't call, but I wanted to put that before. And if you don't know, would you let me tell you more of my story so that we can attack this? Because it felt very racist when this happened to me.
He can tell you more of the story, not on this program, but he can tell you, or let's first see if he can ask that question. What do you say there, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your call. So what I would ask you to do is just give my office a call. It's 410-396-4804, 410-396-4804, just to get the details. It sounds very particular to me because I call all the time and I've never been asked that, but also would just like to also uplift that we have to be mindful that Baltimore City is actually first and foremost our 911 system is actually actually housed in the fire department, and it gets transferred over to police who has 911 dispatchers. So we would have to check on every level, but also that be reminded that our police department is under a federal consent decree for, and to be honest, how is treatment of black people. So there may be some ways that we can look at it through that way as well, and we'll definitely get to the bottom of it for you. So please give us a call. I don't think we should try to air out all of your story on air just so that you can have some privacy, but give us a call and we will definitely look into it.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Right.
That's 410-396-4804. 4804. Got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you now, Cheryl. And thank you for calling Elevation Radio 1. Okay, before I can get started, I got another call. All righty, Elevation Radio 1, how can we help you? Looks like line 6417. I see you. How can we help you? Okay. Mr. Scott, you do hear me talking to people, right?
Yes, I do.
Responding.
I hear you.
Okay. Again, line 6417. How can we help you?
Yes, I have a question.
First of all, who? I'm sorry. Give me your first name, please.
My name is Teddy.
Teddy, hey, Teddy, how you feel, sir?
All right,
okay,
fine.
go ahead and ask your question to Mr. Brandon Scott.
Okay, the question I have, you want the people to volunteer to use their trucks and everything, and other people to pick up the trash. I'll talk about why don't they pay the people with trucks to get all the trash and take it to the landfill?
Mr.
So
Scott?
thank you, Teddy. Thank you for your question. So, two separate things. So, DPW is working with with contractors and haulers, trying to figure out ways to do contracts for them to help with the pickup. But I also think it's critically important. Like today, We were out in Westport with 20 volunteers cleaning up alongside Westport community leaders. People, miss trash, but also a lot of dump trash that has been dumped in people's neighborhood. I think it's also critically important that we as citizens, as residents, help out our neighbors and people who need help as well. There is an opportunity for the DPWs to look. They're hiring right now for people to do solid waste, so anyone under the sound of my voice can just simply call in and be able to be hooked up with DPW because we are hiring. But I also think it's critical for me as a leader, as a man in my community, to stand up and help people when they ask for help, and also help to organize people who this volunteer effort came from people contacting my office saying, how can we help you help people? And I think that is something that's a blessing that we should never push away for citizens of Baltimore.
All right.
Thank you.
Did you get the question answered, Teddy?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Bless you, sir. All right.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Let's go back here. And let's move on now. What are we actually, what is your office doing with relationship to, since you brought it up, about the trash, because trash leads to, impoverished areas, pardon me, trash leads to public health and safety issues. And in this era of pandemic, these are never good issues to actually have. What is your office doing about that?
I'm sorry, the last part cut out. Sir, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last.
Okay, I'm saying when it comes to trash, which is a public health and safety issue, also leads to that supports crime as well. But when it deals with public health and safety issues, especially during a pandemic, what is your office doing to alleviate the trash buildup here in the city?
Yeah, like what I was just talking to a gentleman, he was just referencing. So I am personally leading efforts to clean up areas of heavy trash to support our DPW workers who are overworked, who are working 3 times as hard. We have workers getting sick. We unfortunately had a worker die in solid waste. We're hiring people who are quitting it after a few days or a few weeks because it's backbreaking work. And this trash issue is not just a Baltimore issue. It's a issue around the country right now. And what I am doing as a leader is also holding DPW accountable. We had DPW in for a legislative oversight hearing, pushing them to extend hours at the sites where people can take recycling, other things, but also seeing if there's other things that they can do. Looking again, as we were just talking about doing contracts with small businesses and other folks, right? We need a bunch of folks to help out. But aside from my legislative actions, again, we're leading an effort to clean up trash in some of the worst spots in the city every weekend. Today, we had a great turnout in Westport, right? In Westport, an area that has so much dumping, right? So much dumping. And Keisha Allen, the leader, community leader in Westport, actually just tweeted out a few moments ago saying all of Westport's dumping hot spots were cleaned up today, thanks to our staff and volunteers in the coordination with DPW. That's the kind of work that we have to do right now because we know the workers are struggling, but also our communities need it to be able to have some sense of peace, some sense of hope, some sense of self-worth and being.
I understand that. And hope is very important here in this city, looking to have it. Can you chronicle your legislation that you've written actually on crime and homelessness?
Yeah, so I guess this is for folks to just understand. When you talk about crime and guns and laws and safety laws, most of those are going to be done at the state level. In fact, from the beginning of my time on the city council, I have been leading the effort to make Baltimore's police department a local agency and not a state agency. Many people still don't know, and there's no disrespect to people when folks call to their city council person and say, why haven't you passed a law that makes the police department do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z? Well, they can't because it's a state agency. It's created as a state agency. Has always been that way. But let me just run down some of the things that I've been leading on around gun violence in Baltimore throughout my time. So, in fact, we know that Baltimore has 9 police districts or precincts. They have not redrawn those district boundary lines since 1959. I actually led the effort to go to Annapolis to get a law passed to do that, which will happen after the 2020 census is completed because, of course, they're being inefficient and ineffective if they're policing off 1959 data. In addition, we consistently hear from our police department about them being short officers. But when I asked a few years ago how many police officers did they have doing jobs that in other police departments around the country civilians would do, they said 300, which happened to be the same amount of people they said they were short. So we went and passed a law with Senator Antonio Hayes in Annapolis that will make the police department have to have a ratio of 80% sworn, 20% civilian, so that we can put those cops back out on the streets. In Baltimore, there are a few things that you can do locally. For example, Pastor, 71% of the weapons that the police department tracked back to its origin thus far this year have an origin outside the city of Baltimore. But in our gun defender registry, gun traffickers and straw purchasers were not registered gun offenders in Baltimore until I passed that law earlier this year because we have to focus on it. But the most critical one around violence is that there actually has to be a plan. You may remember me having it out publicly with the now former mayor, Mayor Pugh, about their lack of a coordinated crime plan. Because for far too long, they have whoever is in the mayor's seat, and let me be very clear, when it comes to reducing crime, when it comes to making agencies work and move, only one voice matters in that conversation, and that's the mayor of Baltimore City because that's who they work for, especially the police department because they don't have to respond to anyone else other than the mayor. But if there is no coordinated plan, how can we expect to see gun violence go down? And gun violence is a public health issue. It's a disease. It's a cancer that we've allowed to spread throughout the city. So we actually passed a law earlier this year that will force the next mayor and every mayor after that to have to present a crime plan. It won't be optional that the city goes 3 years without having a crime plan that leads to the things that we have here. We also have to continue other tough work that we've begun on modernizing the department, making sure that we have a federal consent decree, making sure that we have passed legislation that led to Baltimore City having a crime gun intelligence center, which allowed us to track back those guns and bullets so that we know where these guns and bullets are coming from. We know what we have to do here in Baltimore. We have to work with our state partners to make sure that they are also putting in laws and regulations that make gun offenses meaningful when it comes to a criminal justice standpoint, but also understanding that we have to think about the public health approaches, how we deal with substance abuse, mental and behavioral health, how we deal with reentry, how we divert young people away from the system and save them before they get too far gone. That's what we have done and what we will continue to do with gun violence in Baltimore.
All right. That's very comprehensive. We have 2 callers, and let me go with the caller that called in first. It looks like extension 6297. How can we help you? Welcome to Elevation Radio 1. Caller with the phone number of ending in 6297, you're on.
Hello?
Let me try it again. It'll be the last time. Caller with the phone number ending in 6297. I'm talking to you directly. You're on Elevation Radio 1.
How you doing?
Ask you one question.
This is Jerry speaking.
Hey, Jerry. How you feel, sir?
I'm good.
Always a pleasure.
The question that I have, I've been listening. You kind of, for Brandon Scott, he basically kind of was hitting on a few things that I was trying to ask about, right? Okay, so I was talking about the major problem that we have here in Baltimore, obviously, is crime. He said a few things. He was talking about, like, the mayor and everything going through them the way it has been, and I agree with that, thinking that's how it has been done. It's a 2-part question. The first part that I want to know Well, you kind of answered it. The second part is, how do you feel about defunding the police department?
You said it's a two-part. What's the first part, brother? Sorry about that.
So the first part was, what are you planning on doing if you get in and are the mayor with the crime? And the reason why I'm saying that is like, because you kind of answered it when, but I was going to ask about with, what I did notice is that the mayor is usually the person that really has all the say-so over the commissioner and everything else with it. So if the system is set up like that, right, with you becoming the mayor, right, and you saying all the things that you said that the mayors have been doing in the past, what would be different with you getting in there? And then the second part would be about defending. Now, the reason why I'm asking that is because once I hear your answer, I kind of like want to say something real short after that, so I can understand something. Would that be okay, Steve?
On air,
it won't be long.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Scott, can you go ahead and answer the question, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for your question. I think I'll just try to go back and maybe go a little deeper than with my last answer. So gun violence in Baltimore they've looked at it solely as a policing issue, right? And when you think about if you have lung cancer, right, cancer in your lungs, then you don't actually treat it fully. What happens? It spreads to the rest of your body, and that's what happened with gun violence in Baltimore City. And what we've had mayors who have either focused only on the immediate and ignored the long term, or only on the long term and ignored the immediate. You have to do both at the same time. It's like being on a Stella or the regional Amtrak at the same time, right? Because we're never going to get to be able to have a city where we're having people who want to live in neighborhoods that have been reinvested in if you continue to have the violence. And this is what has to happen.
Absolutely.
Our police department, first and foremost, you have to have a constitutionally operating police department. That's why we push our federal decree and reform it. Also, we have to allow the police and order them to focus on what they should be focused on. Right now, we require too much of them. We ask too much of them. They should not be dealing with many of the things that they're dealing with, but this is what they should be dealing with. One, we know that violence in Baltimore is done by small groups of people and other small groups of people, a phenomenon known as group violence. In cities across the country, including Baltimore to a certain extent from 2007 to 2014, has seen time and time again gun violence and crime go down by focusing in on those small groups, targeting those most violent people. That's what the police department should be targeting, but doing what the city has failed to do twice, and that's by the 10 most violent in every neighborhood or every area in the city or whatever, violent repeat offenders, and you bring them in and say, this is your one chance. This is your last chance. If you do not shape up, if you do not change your life, we are going to remove you from these neighborhoods. But for those who say they want a different life, you have to bring your resources. And that's where the city has failed time and time again, because what they have not done is bring those resources. And what do you think happens in a room full of killers when someone raises their hand and says, I want out? They end up dead. Second. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. We're here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Second,
it's a little interruption or something.
Second point on that. We also know, again, that there has never been a strategy on focusing on gun traffickers and straw purchasers, when 71% of the weapons this year are coming from outside the city, in a city where people in neighborhoods. I know this young man who lives in Sandtown, who's never been over to Monument Street in East Baltimore, didn't go to Georgia to get that gun. Why are we not targeting those people as well? They're just as responsible and as guilty. We will do that. We also, when you talk about defund, right, I talk about reimagining public safety. And for me, this isn't a new thing. I've been talking about this for years. If you have Amazon Prime, I would say that to ask you to go and watch it with your family on Amazon Prime. There's a movie called Charm City. It's a documentary about the city. I just happen to be one of the subjects in it. And this was filmed in 2015, to 2018, and you hear me talking about reimagining public safety, looking at gun violence as a disease, understanding that we require too much of our police. And when you're talking about defund or what I call reimagine, it's thinking about what we ask of the police that probably should be done by someone else. The police are not mental health clinicians. Why are we sending them out to incidents of behavioral health instances? They shouldn't be unless this public safety is involved, right? When you talk about substance abuse in Baltimore, they're not treatment people. They shouldn't be dealing with that. Why are we sending
Absolutely.
them? Even ridiculous things like my kid won't go to school, or now my kid won't log on to their Zoom classroom. Or, actually, this is in the movie that you should check out in Charm City. Or, there's a marching band practicing on my street. Or, my husband's cheating on Facebook. I want the police officer to fix that. No, we have to stop that. Make that we reimagine, reallocate how we're going to do those things. People that are mental health people should be dealing with those issues. Substance abuse people should be dealing with those issues. Education should be dealing with those, so we can allow the police department to focus. And what we have to do is do the tough work of doing that and understanding how we can reallocate those funds without running afoul of our consent decree, without ignoring the public safety challenges that we have, and doing it responsibly over time, so that we can do things like the things that we need to do and increase school funding and other things. That's how we have to do that work.
Okay, so I agree with all of that, right? I agree with all of that. And the problem that I have, right, is that when we say all of that, that's all in good. And a lot of times when people was talking about defunding the police, they're talking about taking money from them or whatever. And what I see with the problem, because I'm looking at this thing for a long period of time, and the crime and the way things have been run and the way it's been done. The way the police is set up, for me, when I thought about, like, when Ed Norris was going to be the police commissioner or whatever, and they pushed him out of there, I believe that, like, some of the stuff that he was trying to implement probably would have worked. And because it was policing as usual, and the things they were saying was, well, we don't do policing like that here. And most of the people that they brought in commissioners, they were trying to, like, the stuff that they were trying to implement, they were like, we don't do it that way. But the way you were doing is not working. So when I was hearing defunding, a lot of people was talking about taking money from the cops. And if you don't have cops, because do you believe that Baltimore City can police themselves?
Oh. All right, thank you.
I don't think
let him answer that question.
What I would say is to that is this: two things. One, and I know Mr. Norris personally, the way that they police back then with zero tolerance is directly connected to what we have today. Because when you have a generation of folks who are put in, listen, it was the tough on crime era, right? And we know better now, so we do better. Crime didn't go down when they were arresting hundreds of thousands of people, right? So in 2003, for example, the city had, 200 and whatever homicides, or 300 whatever homicides, and they arrested over 100,000 people. In 2011, there was 197, and they only arrested 60,000. It's because of the focus, and that's what they need to get back to. And what I will also say is the city has been overly investing. The police departments had the lion's share of the budget every year that I've been living, and that's 36. And every year that I've been living, we've been one of the most violent. It's about balancing it out. It's not an either or. It's about balancing out to make sure that the investments are going to everywhere that they're supposed to, and that we're doing it in the right way.
That sounds good. I think he got his question answered, but let me ask you this question, though. But when you mentioned, and again, thank you for your experience. You mentioned zero tolerance. That brings up a name that has caused many folks to have indigestion and police records here in the city. Martin O'Malley. And I must ask this question because now I'm going into the word on the street, and that's I've got some folks who may not be able to call it, but they have actually posed these concerns with me. And I want to get the record clear once and for all, and and make it clear today. as a part of your mentorship, do you count Martin O'Malley as one of your mentors? Are you under his influence?
No. Anybody that says that, Pastor, is someone that is involved in what I call the devil's gossip. People who can't figure out and don't know me, and who are so afraid of having someone that is not connected to them, or who is in control by people that they have been controlled by, or who isn't controlled or doesn't have a connection with people they think they should have a connection with. What I would say is that most of my conversations with the governor has actually been, in my lifetime, has actually been him and I arguing about zero tolerance and what the impacts it had on the city. The governor is someone that I know. I can tell you that if I had to count the amount of times I've actually had a personal conversation with him, I would say that they are less than 15 in my life.
I'm sorry.
Who are so afraid of having something that's not and who is controlled by they controlled by it, controlled or doesn't have a connection that they should have a connection. What I would say is that most of my conversations with the government has actually been like what the actually has been. The governor is someone that I know. I tell you that if I had to count the amount of times that I actually had a personal conversation,
Okay, I'm not sure what's there's some feedback here. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I've got a whole bunch of calls here now. Looks like here. Okay. It's like call 6330.
The feedback has gotten really bad. I don't know what's going on.
I'm not sure where this is coming from.
Did we not hang up on one of the callers? Maybe that's what it is. It was the last caller.
Yeah, maybe I got too many. Maybe I got too many callers. Let's see here. Okay, let me. Okay, yeah, maybe that's it. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me see here. Now, caller 6330. Okay, caller line 6330. All right, well, I'll have to call back. All right. Now, I've got to ask you this question here, because if I don't, then I'll be in trouble. So, let's see here. To some, especially during the time of the economic issues and strain of the pandemic, which exacerbated a lot of folks' economic scenario, the folks that I've talked to didn't understand. Maybe you can help them understand of how the city council can vote themselves a pay raise during the times that other folks can't. How do you do that? Okay, I'm still getting a lot of feedback now. Councilman? Are you still there? Okay, you're live at Radio 1.
Man. Yeah. I was 6330 when I was trying to say that's me, but and then that was me.
Okay, we apologize profusely. Let me go back. I do have a caller here, but a caller 04 looks like 91. Are you still there?
I am. Good afternoon, Pastor Turner.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon.
And how are you this fine? And how are you this fine?
I'm doing fine. Your voice sounds familiar.
It should. I was scheduled to be a guest on your show today as well, until the guest that's on the air decided, that might make it too hot in the hot tub. So instead, I am calling in.
Okay. Well, Lord have mercy. Okay. So, do you have will you identify yourself, please, so I can get a clarity?
Pastor Simon Light. Good afternoon.
Oh, okay. Lord have mercy. Well, you've been a guest on this program before. God bless you.
Thank you, sir, and bless you. I have one question.
You may ask your question.
Thank you, sir. In this election cycle, we're facing a lot of issues as a city, both on education, crime, public safety. Now, wouldn't it be better for the folks in the city to be able to get a chance to actually properly hear all the thoughts and solutions? And if you agree with that, then my question part 2 would be, then why in the first debate did you back out? Why in the second debate did you decide you didn't want to do, the three of us together, but one after the other? And why last night did you require that we not be able to broadcast that to the people? I mean, aren't we facing serious enough issues in this election cycle that all voters deserve to hear all solutions? Council President?
Thank you for calling in. And Pastor, I wouldn't disrespect your show and turn it into. I thought this was going to be a show in decency and order. I've never known a show where you actually have opponents call in and accuse folks on the Lord's show, I might say, and just tell blatant lies. So, what I would
that's
ask
the place
you,
where you
Pastor,
tell the truth and shame the devil.
Well, we'll just agree to disagree, ma'am. I think that if you ask the gentleman from Cigna,
I wasn't scheduled at the same time when your folks decided you would not comply with that? Is that part that's not true?
The pastor runs his show, ma'am, and he decides who goes when and where.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I did promise not to have any contentious conversations or debates here today, and that's on my Facebook postings. And so, hopefully, may I ask a question? When is the next debate?
We just had one last night, Pastor, and what Pastor Wright is upset about in reality is that the brothers from Sigma are very. This is normally a dinner that folks pay to. They were very clear to all of the campaigns that this information was private and that it should not be shared out. And that information was shared out by her campaign for a watch party, which led the brothers to being upset. The issues, it ended up not being an issue after the Zoom got taken over, but we were able to get those folks out, and we had a healthy debate, and we had a forum with the Greater Baltimore Black Business Commerce Chamber of Commerce a few weeks ago, and I know there's others coming up, and we will just continue to do them in decency and in order.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were trying to get us to tell truth and speak truth to power. That's not quite the way things have been happening. And if my hearing is correct, which I believe it is, Pastor Turner's question was, when is not the past, but the next, as in the future?
Well, Pastor, again, let's. I understand that you're in a position where you have to do those things. No.
Please, let's not rewrite revisionist history. Doesn't work. Pastor Turner's question was, when is the next one? I didn't interrupt you. And Pastor, if we're going to continue to allow her to bring into the gutter,
We know that that's what their campaign is about. But if we're just gonna have to discontinue because there are people that have actual real questions that want to talk.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can come to it in amenable terms here. All right, Pastor Wright, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I'm not sure you got your. Did you get your answer?
No. Well, it was your question I was looking for an answer to, and no, apparently none of us voters deserve that.
All righty. Well, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
God bless you. God bless you. Yes, ma'am. All righty. Let's see here. All right.
Pastor, I got time for one more before I have to cut out.
Not a problem. Not a problem here. Let's see here. What may, if I may ask you, what is the master plan? And there's a master plan for a different part. It's a master plan that's according to the BaltimoreCity.gov website. That there's a master plan. Then there's master plans for different segments of the city. There's one for Park Heights. What is the master plan for Park Heights?
So yeah, the Park Heights master plan is actually something that they have been a redevelopment plan for Park Heights that they've been working on since I was in high school and college. It's really the first phase is focused on like acquisition of vacant, dilapidated housing and clearing them out for redevelopment. Ironically, Pastor, this week, I believe Monday or Tuesday of this week, we'll have the groundbreaking for the first section of Renaissance Road of that master redevelopment area where new homes and new things are going to be built there. It's partially done by some individuals. It was awarded to a group of folks, including to Dan Henson, our former housing commissioner. We have the folks at Penrose who are going to be doing development there. It's really about bringing Park Heights back. And what's going to happen as long as I'm in elected office with that neighborhood and every other is it's going to have to be done through a lens of equity. Pastor, Baltimore is the birthplace of housing redlining via legislation. And you will not undo racial segregation, racial policies, racial inequities that was created through policy without changing policy. And we passed my equity assessment law, and now we have to move into the implementation phase. And what will happen is that those kind of developments will not just happen in those neighborhoods, but will happen to benefit the people that are there, not to displace. And when you talk about that and you talk about bringing people back and business, improving schools, in fact, in Park Heights, we have two of our new 21st century schools in both Pimlico Elementary Middle and Arlington Elementary School that have just been reopened before the pandemic and have seen some tremendous change and help the community grow. C.C. Jackson Rec Center is one of our larger centers that was renovated that has a wonderful field on it. And now to see the development come around that and the hopeful that the development for the racetrack comes. And it's about bringing people back. Growing up there, many of my friends who live there are now live in Pikesville and Orange Mills, bringing them back, allowing my generation to live in the same neighborhood that our grandparents moved in and bringing up our families and making sure that we have a revival in Baltimore City, that it's not like the one in D.C. where they went from Chocolate City to Latte City and pushed all the black people out to other places, including Baltimore, but that we do it for the that have been living here and struggling here for many years. And, Pastor, I want to thank you for having me on your show this evening.
Oh, it's no problem. No problem. I believe in fairness. I've done some things before, and a couple of years ago, where I had a forum at the Forest Park Senior Center, where we had all the candidates, every candidate under the sun, come out to get a chance to make a presentation to the community so they can make an informed decision. And that's, to me, the only way to fairness of how you can do it. I did some research, and I found out that in 1870, that Preakness was actually birthed out, and that it was a thriving area there with restaurants and hotels and entertainment venues, and it would be great for that to happen again, because at this moment now, it's basically an annual thing for the weekend. And I see a lot of, and I just got to be honest, Europeans coming down to flash their wealth in that area. And I see people who are residents have to hustle with their own property and try to get them in park or on the grass, try to make a little change. I think it's really such a scenario where the community itself should really benefit from all the wealth that's coming to that area. And last but not least, there really should be, and I really, it irritates me a little bit, but there should be no upper or lower Park Heights, because it's significant of this section of socialism that we're upper, we're better than you are. And then we got the lower Park Heights, where all the crime is, where all the black folks are, which I understand, according to Wikipedia, is 96% African American and poor. What do you plan to do about that?
That's what I was just talking about. Making sure that we have a equitable Park Heights. Making sure that people like my family, I'm actually talking to you right now from 21215. This is where I'm physically sitting as we have this conversation. It's about making sure that line at Northern Parkway, which culturally was talked about as being the division between Africa and Israel when I came up, doesn't exist anymore. That Park Heights is one Park Heights, and that everybody that grows up there, every kid that grows up there, has the opportunity to reach their full potential like I did, because they're living in a community that's not being ignored, being invested in from top to bottom.
Well, you may be calling from that area, but the call is being received in 21215. So this is where I hang my hat too. So
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to actually, because I've been in the community of, because I reside here, I hang my hat here, I hang my crown. I've gotten gypped off buying cars in Ricetown Road from and maybe you can't say this, but I can. Anyway, because it happened. Jewish, basically, car dealerships who gave me excessive pricing and low product, and then told me that I had a problem with it and didn't want to do any service on my vehicle. I had to go through writing and putting pen to paper to get some kind of equity. They'd take my mother's house and basically do a scheme of taxation and water bills and all that kind of stuff, but they tried to help me save the house while taking it from me at the same time with undue duress up there on Slade Avenue from folks who basically were all Jewish and ended up trying to take the house for foreclosure. And thank God I found someone who actually was able to help me to do the right thing with it and keep it from being taken from my hands. But predator lending and poor folk getting taken advantage of along the Reisterstown corridor by the Jewish, those who are in Jewish power, housing and all that, is almost criminal. Frankly, it is. And it really is no place to go because I went to try to get help from the NAACP. I got nothing. And I had to fight my own fight. And a lot of folks don't have that tenacity to keep doing that, but it's tiresome. You can't keep fighting everybody. And so where can one go? Because there's a whole bunch of folk who have been taken advantage of by this corridor up here. Where can they go for help?
Yeah, I think folks can go to Mingo Place. They can always come to our office. We know that, again, this city has a history of redlining and these kind of practices. This is why the city stopped taking houses from water bills and all these other things. We have a tax sale legislation before us right now to further restrict those kind of things. But always come to your leaders first and allow folks to try to connect you to the services. We've seen in this city banks and others have to actually do payouts because of how people have been treated, and that's the kind of inequity that we're hoping to eradicate as we move forward.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you have time for one more call?
Actually, Pastor, I'm getting over my call, but yes, I can take one more quick one.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you for your patience. All right, caller, extension 5748. Are you there? Okay, they just left out. Okay, so I guess that's the last call. And so
All right.
Is there any closing remarks you want to make to the citizens of Baltimore as they begin to figure out who they want to vote for mayor?
Yes, thank you. And thank you again, Pastor, for having me this evening. This is the most important election in the history of Baltimore. It's time for Baltimore to pass the baton to the next generation of leadership, people who have been here. I'm a son of Baltimore, never left, born, raised, bred, lived here my whole life. Understand this. This is not about elected service for me. This is about serving the city that I love, the things that I would do regardless. As the person who led the 300 Men March anti-violence movement, the largest anti-violence movement the city's ever seen, who was out on those street corners at 1 and 2 in the morning while other folks who say they care about this city were sleeping in their homes that weren't in Baltimore City. Someone who understands the practices and policies that need to be in place, who has worked his life up from the bottom of a structure, fighting to change it from within, to be at this point, at this moment, to push Baltimore to be the best Baltimore we can be together. That's a new way forward, and that's a new way forward with Brandon Scott. Pastor, I want to thank you for having me. Have a blessed evening, and good night to you and all your listeners.
Well, we thank you for coming on this program, sir, and making it plain to the citizens of Baltimore of your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. All right. All right. That was our interview with Brandon Scott, City Council President and Democratic nominee for mayor of this great city, which is Baltimore, the metropolis. And so, again, if you have any questions or concerns regarding city services, I think I still have that number, and that's 410-396-4804. That's 410-396-4804. I appreciate everyone that did call to voice their questions. I'm sure there were some who were interested in calling and weren't able to make it through. But let this moment go down in history that you can't say that you didn't have an opportunity to talk to Brandon Scott directly. And so we thank you again for your time. This has been an Elevation Radio 1 moment. Radio 1 moment. My salute to God. Oh, and this program was brought to you by God and Paris I think that's A7. Yeah, Paris A7. And it's over in Reisterstown Plaza. I have a chance to go over there, and they hooked me up, the music man up with, and when you go over there, ask for Jeff, the CEO, and the Black Marilyn Monroe, and ask for Miss Marilyn and Nita. Those guys over there will treat you right. Great pastor robes, pastor clergy outfits for the young pastor, for the seasoned pastor. Also suits for men. Thank God. Jeff used to work at K&G, so he's got the K&G flow. Great suits, great prices, ties, cufflinks. I mean, it's an endless scenario. I was treated like a king. Matter of fact, spent too much money over there. Go to the Facebook page and see my outfit that I wore actually last night, and they will hook you up. I mean, if you ever been hooked up, my God, this is fantastic. I was looking like a Hollywood celeb for a change. Even my wife was proud of me. It's fantastic. Again, if you want the best musician in town, one of the best. Let me clarify that. Call us at 1-410-302-2737 and go to our website at www.ultimatepraise.us. And listen, keep your head up. Let God know that you love him and that you want to make a good decision in the polling booth, in the polling place. And vote your conscience. Vote differently this time. Vote for change. wherever change is. All right. God bless you. Next week we'll have on Minister Michael Alexander on this program, and we'll talk to him. Again, we spotlight positive people doing positive work while serving positive God, whose name is Jesus, and that's important. Do you love Christ? Let him know. Give him your heart.